Joined now by Patrick Johnston of the Province and Post Media, as we will be Thursdays this hockey season. You enjoy the game last night?
It was okay.
Yeah. Have enough to write about?
Oh, man. Well, I didn't have to do the gamer. That was Koo's show. But, yeah, following up, Brock Boeser, 4 goals. I mean, the thing that, we were waiting for Hughes to finish, and Brock was like, they did a lineup of guys, and I think it would have been easier on them if they just opened the doors and let us, but here we are. Anyway, so Brock's sitting there, and IMAC were kind of looking at him, and I just said to him, I said, because the hat trick went off his foot. And I said, was the fourth extra special? I just heard quietly tap because you actually got to tap it with your stick. Oh, yeah, that was funny how it went off my foot. He goes, oh, man, that fifth one. Oh, he just closed his eyes and went, oh,
yeah.
Because he knew, that was probably actually the best scoring chance he had all game, right? Like sitting in the slot, and he wired it. So yeah, he could have had 5. He could have, I guess someone could have scored and win, despite me thinking that a national game doesn't apply.
Well, apparently there was somebody there.
Controversy here.
Yeah.
But
because it's not advertised on the national games, but apparently the contest still goes on even when it's not advertised on the national games. It's a regional package. So there was somebody on the brink of a big win.
Is it $1 million?
It's $1 million.
Is it?
Yeah.
$1 million scoring
somewhere
win. It's in the name.
Somewhere there was an insurance guy really fucking nervous last night.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yes. Right.
Yeah. Oh, man. Anyway, what a night, Brock Boeser. I mean, talk about what a contrast. You go all the way back last year. J-Pat setting him up. Is this the year you hit 30? And Brock confidently saying yes in training camp. And then what? The next day breaks his hand. And then had that awful start. Everything that could go wrong going wrong. His hand getting hurt again. Took him 12 games to score a goal. By the end of the year I was thinking was playing pretty effectively, but still, essentially career low on goals. And now he only needs 26 more goals to get to 30. He's 26 goals is kind of an average, a healthy average Brock Boeser season, right?
I hope that incidents like that don't cause guys to shy away from setting personal goals. I know it's a team game, but you can still set a personal goal because you think that helps the team. I think to do my job, to help the team, if I score 30, I feel like I'm helping the team. And I hope that Brock's like, I'm never setting a personal goal publicly ever again. No, you have to strive for something, right? To me, it's, I hope it doesn't, again, sort of have this ripple effect through the guys that are around him.
Well, and it was a little bit like why I asked Miller about, he said himself he'd been thinking about this game for a while. And I said, well, were you thinking about it because it's the opening game of the season? Because of who the opponent is? Because of how things started last year? Because if you remember, it was me who asked him in Philly, kind of tried to give him an out, saying, one goal was kind of unfortunate. Another one, you slipped in the neutral zone. And he just cut me off and said, am I allowed to swear here, by the way?
You are, yeah.
He was. Up for 8 all fucking goals against. He just wasn't having any of it. Right. Last night, of course, he said he couldn't. I think he couldn't remember. Oh, it was only 6 goals, and I was going, JT, it was 8, but I didn't say that. But I asked him the question, what was that about? And then I asked him about all the points, and he, so he grinned because he knew. He's like, well, you can't really, but of course he loved getting 5. I guess it was only 4 in the end, but at that point we thought it was 5. Of course he loved getting 5 points and playing well against Connor McDavid. I mean, all these guys, in the end, they set goals. Petey wants to score 110 points or whatever, right? They're never they don't say it, but that's certainly there. They get it. That's how they get paid. That's why they win. On and on and on.
I said goals. That our guests tell me that's a great question more often than they say that of Blake.
That's the scoreboard in your mind.
That's the scoreboard. We're even on the season, but these are early days.
Ticker going on the bottom.
You don't want to ask about the career totals here.
It's a bit like around the horn. You just got
exactly.
Here.
So it really boils down this simply by the math. 81 games left. If he scores once every 3 games, he hits 30, right? Yep. So answer me the Bodog poll question. Yes, no, or make it 40.
I mean, this is like the Bull Durham point. It's an extra hit a week and you're a 300 hitter, right? Yeah, no, absolutely. I think he's going to do it. I say yes. Brock Boeser's going to do it. Gork, ground ball with eyes. What's the difference between 250 and a 300 hitter?
We mentioned this off the top, but they played short last night. In fact, 4 teams played short last night, including the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah.
And that triggers, I guess we'll call it an emergency recall.
No.
This
is the emergency roster exception.
Okay.
So as I understand it, you're allowed to call a guy up who is independent of the cap, so long as he's making less than $800,000
$850.
And plunk him in your lineup without any cap costs.
Said player's name must end in a vowel, too.
Right.
Yeah.
So you get to 18 skaters. Do we have that right, or is there a nuance here?
Well,
with forward, because they called up Studnicka.
Yes. The debate I'm trying to sort out, if you read 50.10E,
I know it. Yeah, I know it well. Yeah.
It talks about 18 and 2. So there is sort of an implication, if you have 18 healthy skaters, those are your guys, and the emergency roster exception player must go back. But the other one, which is the recall under emergency conditions, is when you are going into a game short. You can't get to 12 forwards, you can't get to 6 defensemen, or you can't get to 2 goalies. So you get to call one up for that position. But that has a cap hit. So like in theory, instead of calling up, and the other thing about it is that, so that one is like when they called up Hirose, they could have called up Wolanin instead. And if they called up Wolanin, under those terms, his waivers clock doesn't run. So he can be up for as long as that. And then if you clear waivers, you have 30 days in the NHL. But that's immaterial. This one, exactly. Yeah. So Jack Studnicka does not have a cap hit while he's in the NHL. And also his waivers clock doesn't run. But the moment the Canucks are sort of healthy, I mean, Teddy Bluger, I think, is the obvious case here. We don't really, Susie, I don't think, I mean, apparently tried to skate yesterday. I think he's closer than they initially thought. Obviously not out for long enough to put him on LTI, because that's 10 games and 24 days, which is what people always forget.
Of course, the other thing here is, if the flu is going around, it may be a bigger list than just Susie, Bluger, and Brisebois by Saturday.
Yeah. And then we don't know what's up with Brisebois. I mean, I saw him during Friday's game in the press box, kind of walking gingerly around. We don't know if he's skated. His equipment is in the stall. So, presumably, somehow Brisebois maybe is available, or Bluger, then Studnicka has to go. Otherwise, he's playing on Saturday and we'll go on the road trip. But the moment my impression is the moment any one of those guys is healthy, he has to go, but it may just be Bluger.
And we don't know about Demko.
Oh, man. Oh, guys. So it was one of those ones where I took a moment leaving the area where we do the post-game press conference, and I ran into Mr. Demko, who was not looking well, walking out, with his wife and their little baby. But basically, he was sort of staggering along.
Wow.
And I sort of said, "How's your mask?" But I don't think he really heard me. He just kind of looked at me in a daze and just kept going. I mean, if it's hopefully he feels better by Saturday. Otherwise, it's Casey Smith.
It wasn't quite Michael Jordan scoring 50 in the finals, but a heck of a flu game.
Yeah, that's it. Very good. Yeah. There were a couple tough saves, where he had to last minute get his foot out or what have you. A solid performance. Performance you would not have known until he left that he wasn't feeling well.
What did you make of, and talked about this after the game, and frankly, I'm just a little bit surprised, because I think we would all agree that Elias Pettersson is a better defensive centerman than JT Miller. And frankly, I think we'd all agree that when everybody is healthy, like the 2 wingers with Pettersson and, of course, Kuzmenko on one side, but whether it's Mikheyev or Beauvillier or whomever, are probably a little bit better defensively than the wingers on the Miller line. But he likes the matchup with the JT Miller, Connor McDavid line. And of course, I suspect he's going to do his utmost to make that so on Saturday, even without last change. But, for all the points that line scored and for all the grunt work that Di Giuseppe did, and to the benefit of Boeser and Miller, what did you make of that line as a matchup line on the McDavid
side? It was the JT Miller that certainly he projects himself to be, and I think wants to be. And I asked, I mean, there was that, like I said, I asked him a bit about how important was this game? Was it because, he himself said he was really looking forward to this game. Was it because of the match? Was it because it was simply opening night? Was it because of the matchup? Was it because of how badly things started last year? And, he kind of lit up about it. He said, he really felt they had to prove something because of how badly last year started, given how much they talked about that in the, frame of the year before when things started so badly. But he himself, like that 8 goals against, like he wanted the challenge. He wanted to beat this guy. You're playing the best player in the world. How is that not motivating? And, he clearly, he's acknowledged it more than once. He knows the criticism, which a lot of times is very fair. Like, there's not been an effective two-way player. But if this team's going to go somewhere, they need him to be. You're right. Like, Pettersson has shown the qualities more than Miller has.
For sure.
But you need him to be that guy.
It's consistency, right? And even for Pettersson, I was going to ask you this question too. Like, Pettersson's performance last night, not surprising at all. He can do that game for sure. The question is, can he do it 82 times? Can he do it 65 times even? Because then he's going to be a 105-point player and a Selke trophy nominee as well. And it's sort of a diet version for JT Miller. Same idea. Can you do that more often so that you're an 85-point player with extreme defensive capability as well? And to me, that's the challenge for both of those guys at critical positions for the Canucks. Because if they do, man, this team's a lot better just by virtue of those guys being so complete down the middle.
Well, I mean, it was the whole team effort thing. That this was a team that had defended badly as a group. So whatever they were doing within that was only going to look worse because the overall effort was so poor. So I think some of that too was the overall approach, the overall success of the team. I mean, everybody was talking about it, but think about how effective they were disrupting passes across the slot. I found myself thinking a lot about 2 years ago watching, Tyler Myers and Tucker Pullman try to kill penalties, and just the open season that the cross slot pass was. Like, there was just nothing. You saw these big tall defensemen just completely at a loss on how to prevent that happening. And here we are last night, and there's sticks covering off holes and just making it difficult. It was really impressive as a team, and these guys have talked a lot about, they talked a lot about last year, especially being predictable, and they meant predictable to each other, that you understand that he's going to do his job, predictable.
Yes.
Yeah. A good predictable, and if you are a good predictable, you can adjust correctly in every moment, which Tocchet himself has talked about. So to me, that is what it's about, is that it's not just Miller having to be a bit more efficient, I guess is the word, or whatever it is, all around smart, and he is the player he is, right? Like, he's 30 years old. It is an old, he is an old dog. Let's be realistic on that, right? There's not going to be a whole ton of new tricks, but there is an ability in his game to be that player. He certainly believes it, and his coach believes it. And I mean, 3 coaches in a row have believed that. So he is a guy that will benefit if the team remains this disciplined and this good at the defensive end of the ice. And, that there was the sticks. It is the likes of Ian Cole. I think people really start to get appreciate for what we've seen from him in preseason. There's a guy who reads the game so well. Obviously that third pairing, the Hirose Juleson pairing, you're kind of holding on to the seat of your pants a little bit there. And that could emerge to be a problem. But if you're getting a performance like your Cole's made, Tyler Myers a pretty effective defenseman last night. And then obviously Hughes and Hronek are going to be able to, if things go the way they should, are controlling the play all night. There's a lot there. Like, it's a lot to build on, even if there are missing a couple guys that they need to get in the lineup. Like, they need to get Soucy in the lineup. He's going to make a big difference, I think. But in the end, your big guns need to be your best players. And last night, their big guns were their best players.
On the Lafferty trade, and we want your 2 cents, but was thinking, right-handed center, which they don't have a lot of, and also Remember, they were talking big winger at one point in free agency, and he can maybe kind of be both for them.
He was an interesting player to watch last night. Like, you noticed the speed, like the first step speed, and he more than one. There were, there are 3 examples I can think of, but maybe there were more than that, where he would get the puck on the outside, and he knows how to turn the corner. Like, he can get that defenseman under pressure, get that defenseman turned, and
fight them off while they're trying to
fight them
hack
off
at him.
because he's a big, he's got the size. He's a guy that understands how to use his size and his speed in tandem. Even if he's not, the most skilled guy out there, he knows how to make that particular thing work. And that's not something the Canucks had a lot. I mean, ever really. I mean, he's a very unique player when you think in those terms. And yeah, I get it. This is a pickup that makes sense for how this team wants to play. You think about the Joshua goal, like driving the net, picking up loose pucks. Like, Lafferty is a guy that creates those kinds of opportunities. And that's exactly what they want to be. It was a very interesting performance from him in his home debut, in his Canucks debut.
It's I'm glad for the storyline that they get Edmonton again, because it's one thing to have a great game like this. It's one thing to do that. But knowing they're going to come back and hit you in the face, how do you respond? And I would suspect that the Oilers on their home opener, they're going to come back and there's going to be a couple jabs early in the face. And I mean that literally and figuratively. How do they respond? And to me, that's going to be a science experiment here on again, sort of the flimsiness that we saw from this team last year versus maybe a more structured, stiffer backbone team.
Well, especially because McDavid is salty. He's
sour.
Yeah. Well,
backup goalie. Not happy.
Yeah. The goalie thing was interesting because Woodley was telling us about that when we came back to the press box, because he goes and does the Edmonton room, and it was clear that McDavid didn't know there was illness involved.
Correct.
But he's not going to care. In the end, they were shown up. Like, they were shown. It was as bad a performance as you could get from that team. The Canucks did everything to basically rub salt in the wound, whether it was intentional or not. Like, they won the entire narrative of the night. And so that is always going to, that's always going to piss you off when you're a competitive person.
But much like that Calgary preseason game, like, if you're just allowing it to happen, it's not on the scoring team's shoulders.
Yeah, exactly.
He wouldn't be the first star player to, use slights, real or perceived, or take facts and twist them to create slights.
So can they do it on Saturday?
Can the Canucks do it on Saturday?
Yeah.
I've been thinking a lot about this. I mean, let's put it this way. If the Oilers do not come out hot, what is that team?
Right. You talk about their backbone then, right?
That's what I mean. Like, to me, the Canucks is just, they've shown themselves. They know they're on a high. Like, they know they're like, we got to refocus. It's game 2. It's the Oilers. It's Edmonton. It's a whole new bubble. But they're literally right about that. Like, they cannot sit back and be like, oh, we beat, a Stanley Cup contender by 7 goals. Like, what do we got to worry about? Like, they know they literally cannot do that. The matchups are now going to go against them. It's going to be a big task. The one thing about this, and if you look at it, obviously it is a long road trip. I think they're away for 15 days, but there's a lot of downtime. They don't have any back-to-backs. There's a couple games that have 2 days between games. So this, if ever there was an early road trip where you are going to be able to get away with riding your big guys a little more than you would, this is one of those ones.
Yeah, good point.
And talk about having your two top lines being highly motivated already. It's going to be a big game for them again, for both the Miller line and the Pettersson line. And I fully expect Rick Talk is going to lean heavily on them. He's going to lean heavily on Quinn Hughes, lean heavily on Philip Hronek. Like, this is now the test of the team that thinks they should be in the playoffs. And here it is right now. Like, this is as big as it gets. It's even bigger, I think, than we thought about last week when we were sort of talking about needing to get off to a good start. They literally have gotten off to the good start. Like, it's as good a start as you can get. Now it's about sustaining it. And do they have the mojo to make this happen?
I mean, they've almost protected themselves against a bad start, guys, because they've got
not yet.
Well,
No,
no, but
It's a 5-game road.
a win, but a win and a draw on the road.
Sure.
And the worst case scenario for them is 2-3-1, which
Yeah,
is
you're not wrong. But
you
like
know,
they could.
Let's
last
see the
year
win
they
and
went
the draw
0-5.
first.
You know,
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's the thing. They need
exactly.
They lose on Saturday, and then there's still 4 games for they're like
Yeah.
It's a long road trip. It may not be physically taxing, but it is a mentally taxing one when you're not home, you're not in comfort, and all that kind of thing.
Fair enough. Can I give you a little feedback?
Yeah.
Critique here.
oh wow.
You don't swear well.
Oh,
It didn't sound authentic.
oh, really?
This guy over here, perhaps the worst cursor I've ever
gotten
heard
better.
in my
I've gotten
life.
better.
Do you know the Eddie Murphy bit with the his friend's house and come on, ma, shit. That guy. That's how Blake sounds on the golf course. If I could get a nickel for every side-eye glance I've had from one of our playing partners after Blake curses, like Blake curse like that
It's
all the
it's the nuns for looking at me for all those years in
You know
Catholic
what?
school. You know,
You're too nice to guys.
Yeah.
There's got to be a little bit of evil behind every swear word, and I'm just not sure you guys can muster it.
Oh, well, once again, Matthew, this is a professional environment, and I try not to swear in my professional environment.
Fair.
So I invite you out to watch the Puck Nuts sometime, which is not a professional environment.
Until next Thursday, thank you.
Take care, guys.
And fuck off, man.
Yeah, that was the line. It was right fucking there.
This Sekeres and Price clip brought to you by Bodog. Make a play at Canada's choice for free casino games, sports odds, and poker strategies.